welcome. Today's guest is Massimo Leo. Massimo has extensive experience of over 19 years as a home building inspector. He did that for quite a while, and he decided to make a career change. He's now a full-time realtor. He's been there since, just prior to the pandemic, and then a month after you guys got shut down. So that was kind of a bit of a poor timing prop on your part. Massimo's also a full-time dad, husband. He's got 3 kids, and has some pretty good experience in sports. You know, you did some played at a pretty high level in I think it's soccer, right?
Back in my heyday, which was considered high at the time, not compared to today. We got the MLS now, which is great.
Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about your experience there.
So played at a fairly competitive level. Well, fairly competitive. At the time, again, I didn't pay attention. I wasn't much to pay attention to leagues or whatever. Mm-hmm. But played with, essentially ended up at North York, Missouri, which I call it the original Centro Scuola.
Yeah, that's right.
So played with them for quite some time in the top league at the time. From I think I joined them in my early teens, and played there. Moved up to the provincial program, represented Ontario from the early teens up until I left for my scholarship. Had the opportunity, was in the trials to try out with Team Canada.
Wow, how old were you at that time?
Oh, man, how old was I? I can't even remember what it was. I would say 17 at the time, because I think it was the under 18 World Cup. That's the team that they were forming. Mm-hmm. So it was privileged to be part of that. Unfortunately, didn't make the roster, the traveling roster. But again, great experience growing up in that atmosphere with the competitiveness.
What made you get involved in soccer? That was just your go-to sport, or what?
That's it. That's the only sport I was allowed to play. It was mainly my dad. That was the influence of my dad. Grew up playing soccer. Again, my parents immigrated here from Italy, so that's all he knew.
Wow.
Was soccer. My dad played during the 70s. He played in the semi-pro league that was here in Toronto. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was that with the Toronto Italia?
I don't know. It was so in the 70s. He played for Macedonia. He played for so there was a few teams in the semi-pro league.
Yeah, that might have been
at that time. And again, I don't know much about it.
That might have been the TND or the National Soccer League that they had back then.
Yeah. I don't even remember what it was. But my experience was, again, that's all I knew.
Oh, that's good.
I only knew soccer. I played sports in elementary school. Like, you play volleyball, you play basketball, you did track. Mm-hmm. I did track, but mainly the focus was soccer.
Wow. And so did your kids take after you?
Funny enough, I didn't want any of my kids to go into soccer.
Really?
I didn't want them to touch a soccer ball, didn't want them near the sport.
Why is that?
I don't know. It was just, I don't know if it's because I couldn't be around it anymore.
Meaning what? Like, you wanted to be involved and engaged with it? Or?
No, didn't want to be involved, didn't want to be engaged.
Oh, wow.
Didn't want to be involved, didn't want to be engaged. Again, I grew up, my dad was my coach for the club portion with North York, Missouri, and even before then, all my life. So it was always...
was it too intense for you?
Like, we'll say added pressure.
Because your dad was a coach?
Yeah, my dad was a coach. We'll say he was, to put it politely, he was very passionate.
Well, I know it's funny you say that, because
I coached passionate about it.
I coached both my kids in hockey, and I realize now that I realized that near the end of my coaching career, I did it for 15 years. There's a lot of good things that came out of it, but there's also a lot of negative things that came out of it. I think one of my sons would have probably preferred to play soccer instead of hockey, but because I was a hockey guy, we kind of, tailored it in that direction. It gave us something to do, but they were both very good at it. I don't know if at the end of the day, if it really served them well by me being their coach.
I don't know. I think it did. like again, like I said, to put it very gently, my dad was passionate about the sport, and he gave everything for it. Like for him, soccer is it's life, it's a religion, it's a devotion. And he was everything for the team. He'd pick up players. He was the taxi driver. Sure. He was the coach, the team doctor. He was he was everything, right?
Yeah.
And not like today with all these academies and stuff like that where coaches get paid. No, it was all done because you actually loved the sport.
Understood.
Right? You did it because you loved it. Negative impacts, I don't know. There were just days where you didn't want to play because of just that added pressure, the expectation. But looking back, did it deter me at the time? Yeah, there were times where I didn't even want to play when I was younger. I remember I told my parents that I wanted to quit entirely. I wanted to quit the sport entirely.
Because you just hated it because of the fact that your dad was coaching?
Yeah, I think it was. It was just like, you know what? I don't want any more part of this. I'm not enjoying it anymore. I don't love it anymore. And when I said that, I saw the look on my dad's face, and I'm like, all right, looks like we're not quitting. Wow. So we're gonna move forward with it.
Well, how old were you when you made that decision that you didn't want to play?
Oh man, around 13.
13, that's young. You're just getting started.
Just getting started.
But did you get over that hurdle after? What did you do?
There's no getting over the hurdle, right? It was just my mom mentioned it. She said, listen, he doesn't want to play anymore. And my dad he's like, no, he's still playing. Like you're not quitting.
You're not
quitting.
Okay. All right. So
you quit or else. Don't quit or else.
Wow.
So it was there was no ultimatum, right?
So he was living his life, his dream through you, maybe.
Was he? I don't know. I don't know what his intentions were. Again, I grew up, I was born in 79, so we grew up totally different than what my kids grew up today. Mm-hmm. You literally grew up fearing your parents, your dad or your mom, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. It was just, I didn't want to play anymore. I didn't want to go into that environment where it was, although it was a team, I just felt the focus was on me.
Yeah, sure.
Not to sound conceited or anything. No, because your dad as the coach,
I know what you mean.
It's that extra ridicule.
Yep, I know exactly what you mean.
And you would know, and I'm pretty sure people who have played sports and their dads were their coach or were involved in their sporting career, where you knew you had a good game and a bad game from the ride home. How quiet it was.
Isn't that that is so true? And you know how many times did I catch myself in the early parts of my coaching career at the AA and AAA level with my kids in hockey. I had to learn the hard way, and I had to learn from other people when I saw them do it. I said, am I that type of guy too? I better watch this. So we limited that as quick as possible, but I know for a fact that a lot of other kids whose parents weren't coaching, and their parents they all meant well. I mean, the coaching parents, that's why they're there. They're there because of the passion. Their kids are playing hockey. Yeah. It gives them something to do, and they want a mentor. But I think what happens after is that they forget the reality is that's just another person, and it's your son, unfortunately, or your daughter, and you can't make the separation. When you can't make the separation, it's time for you to get out.
Yeah, and it's true, but again, that comes with like you evolving as a person too, right? Again, at that time, again, looking back and reflecting, and through the help of going through my own personal growth journey and evolving as a person, you look back and you're like, okay, why was he the way he was, or why was it the way it was? And you just got to take a look. Okay, where did he come from?
Do you live with any of those legacies in your mind today?
How do you mean?
I don't know. Did he have a positive impact on you in any way?
Listen, the sport, growing up in that environment, I was thankful I didn't quit, or he didn't make me quit. Otherwise, he would have beaten me to a pulp. But
yeah,
but
with a wooden spoon.
Yeah, no, my dad didn't need a spoon, man. My dad was in construction, so he had the sausage fingers. It was one whack of those that send you straight right away.
Sure.
And I don't say that like I was abused or anything like that. It's just that's the way it was back then.
Of course.
I wasn't the only one.
Of course
I get together with my friends and we joke all the time. and we talk about our kids, and we're like, what would your dad do if he spoke like that to you?
Yeah, of course.
To him.
Of course.
And everyone says the same answer, backhand.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Right? The sport definitely had a positive impact in my life, although there were negative times. It developed me as a person.
Sure.
Right? Sports in general, I think sports are essential for all kids. It teaches you discipline, teaches you structure, to operate individually and as a team. For me, what I really got out of the sport is how far can I go? How far can I push myself?
Do you use those same principles in business today?
Yes. And it's funny, I've had business coaches and mentors, and it's funny, in business, in life, you try and bring that mindset. Although it is advantageous, I'm still trying to get to the point where I can push myself beyond like I did with sport.
Really?
Yeah. Like my mindset in sport was, and again, it was just the environment that I was in, the way my dad resonated and related to the sport. It was, once you cross that white line, it's war.
Sure. Of course.
Right? Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But it worked. Everything didn't matter. As soon as I was on the field, it was just myself, the opponent. Let's get this done.
Sure.
Let's get this done. And
I respect people like you that have that kind of, because you know what? It's becoming a dying breed, and a lot of kids today don't get it. It's like, they become soft. What do you accomplish when you're soft? Nothing. No. Nothing gets done. You're offended by a word that's said to you, a dirty look or a stern look gets interpreted the wrong way. Then you got to think about it yourself now. But you're trying to create a structure for somebody, to be able to. Nothing gets done without a discipline and some determination and perseverance. Whatever gets done. Yeah. If you get sick, the doctor is always going to say to you, well, it's up to you now to try to get well. If you decide to you go to university or college, you have to go write your exams. Well, it's up to you that you study, you have to do it. Yeah. Nothing comes easy.
No, nothing does come easy. And again, growing up when I did, my parents were, they were of modest means. I guess you would consider a middle class back then.
Sure.
My dad was in construction. My mom was in the corporate industry. She started with the company in the mailroom and then worked her way up until they laid her off after 34 years of employment. Mm-hmm. But she worked her way up to management. But again, getting back to the sport, yeah, I just developed that mindset that it's not a do or die mindset. It's
but you're here to win.
We're here to win. We're here to compete. And again, always in the back of my head is I better perform today, otherwise I'm going to get it on the way home. Right? So there was that fear factor a bit too.
Sure.
Which again, getting back to when I wanted to quit and the relationship I had with my dad as a coach, I actually internalized some of that anger I wanted to project to him out on the field. And that's what fueled me.
I see.
And you saw that it was part of my style of play. I was center midfield, and I was just like that grit and grind guy.
Sure, of course.
Within 5 minutes, if I didn't hit somebody or if I didn't get hit or slide tackled, I'd be thrown off.
You're like a Gattuso type of guy.
I'd love to be compared to, hey, listen, it's a privilege to be compared to him. But yeah, I came from a place of anger, or I internalized that to fuel me to go beyond what I thought I could.
Well, what I'm gathering here is that you interpreted it as anger as a kid, because that's how you processed it at that age, at 13, 14 years old. Today, you're probably going to embrace a guy that says, I thank you for putting me into that position where I want to be able to do a lot more. It's not all bad. Okay, that kind of experience is not all bad. Only because of your father. What if it was somebody else you didn't know, and he fueled it that way?
Well, and that's the funny thing. So I did have other coaches. So when with the provincial program at that time, it was Saturday, Sundays. It was you'd go to the OSA Center or Centennial Park, and it was just OSA and CSA, so Ontario Soccer Association and Canadian Soccer Association, and we would just train for tournaments. And there were other coaches. most of the coaches back then in the association were either English, Scottish, Irish. Those guys weren't a walk in the park either.
No, I remember that.
Right? Like we train at Lamport Stadium at times, even during the winter outdoors.
Yeah,
like,
Lamport Stadium.
We had a coach. I saw this coach when my middle daughter, funny enough, my middle daughter, she's 14 now. She played soccer for a bit. And I thought I was in trouble not because she's my daughter, but when I saw her touching the ball and moving on the field, I'm like, oh man, this kid has it. She's got the read on the game. She's got the touch for the ball. And I was like, oh, damn it. I got to be around the soccer field now as a parent.
I gotta protect her environment now.
Not even protect her. It's just that I would get emotionally involved, and I would see her play, and then it'd be like me on the field, where I'm like, oh my God, throw that tackle or pass the ball, put the ball through or shoot or this and that. And you flinch, you're on the sidelines. Then I'd be by myself. I don't want to be around anyone.
Sure.
Right. So it didn't last long, but she was with Richmond Hill, and I saw one of my provincial coaches coaching the older girls, and right away we saw each other. Bob Monroe, Scottish guy. Never forget this guy. We went to Cuba on a tournament when we were 15 or 16, and we played the under 19 Cuban national team.
Wow.
Yeah. We got our asses kicked. But
what a great experience to be in Cuba.
Yeah, well, listen, I think they did it on purpose. We went there, we played 2 games against them, and kickoff was always scheduled at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Prime heat.
Oh yeah, prime heat. They were used to it. We were dying.
Sure, of course.
Right? I thinking back, I'm like, we should have returned the favor, invite them to Lamport Stadium in Toronto in February.
That's right.
Let's see how it goes, right?
That's right.
But again, these guys were hard. Like back then, like they'd swear at you, they'd call you names, the infamous names that you would hear from these from guys from Britain, wanker and
laddie
sayings,
yeah.
These sayings that were just like, you think about it, you're like, where do these come from? You have the touch of a blacksmith's hammer, the touch of an elephant. You're like, and they just put you down.
Oh, jeez.
They would put you down. And Bob Monroe, funny enough, he was known for tackling players during practice.
You're kidding.
Oh yeah, he'd come out of nowhere and just tackle you.
You know what? It might sound like it's a corny thing. It's okay. You know what? At the end of the day, nobody got hurt by it.
No, and you know what?
They're trying to build your character. I mean, listen, you can either do it in sports or go to the military. The military is a lot worse than that. So they're being polite. Okay, could have been a bit extreme. That's fine. But you know what? You seem perfectly fine to me.
Yeah, but you know what? That's just the way it was back then. It was acceptable. People are like, oh my God, listen, if my dad were to coach in today's society and the coaches I had back then, oh my God,
they'd be bringing them
lawsuits left, right, and center. But at the end of the day, when you go into a sport, I even say it now to people, just because of and again, it's not to pat myself on the back, but at the time, it was a fairly highly competitive level.
Sure.
It's like, what's the purpose of playing? What's the purpose of playing if you don't want to get something out of it, achieve something out of it? But this is, again, me internalizing it. Why did I play? The goal, the dream for everyone was make it pro.
Sure.
I wanted to play professional. Right? Was it a realistic dream? I don't know, but I just wanted to do it.
Who cares?
No, and I got it. And that was the goal. I wanted to play professional. Although my love for the game faded at one point, the dream was like, make it professional, go through the sacrifices. Listen, I laugh. My wife has known me since high school. We're high school sweethearts. I didn't see a nightclub until just before leaving for my scholarship.
Holy smokes, how old are you then?
So I was 18.
Wow.
So before I left for my scholarship, I saw my first nightclub. I wasn't allowed out with friends, at curfews, like everything evolved around soccer.
I got it, man.
Right?
I get it.
And it was funny. You laugh back then. Like the inside joke with me and my family was, oh, Mass, did you do this? I said, no, I wasn't allowed. I had soccer on Tuesdays. But they're like, but this was on Saturday. I said, it doesn't matter. Soccer on Tuesdays. It's just an inside joke, right? And a lot of people don't get it. They're well, you don't. But through the sport, I experienced so much that sacrifice, pushing yourself beyond not only your mental limits. I think it's also your physical limits is what I enjoyed more.
Let me compare this to you. What do you think Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner's life and Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier, what do you think their lives were like?
I don't know. And that's the thing. Today's athlete, the modern athlete, I cannot relate to them. Although they may sacrifice, they work hard. By far, the athlete today has evolved from way back when. They're faster, they're stronger. They work out more efficiently. They take care of their bodies better.
And they make more money. They make more money.
There's so much more knowledge and technique and science behind sport now that we didn't have.
No.
Right? So I really can't relate because I think of today's athlete as soft.
Of course. I agree with you.
I feel they are soft.
I agree.
And hey, by all means, you want to chase the money. But I grew up in an era watching, Italian soccer, watching players like Maldini, Baresi, Vialli, Mancini, Eric Cantona, Roy Keane from the EPL with Manchester. All these older players, why did they play?
Ruud Gullit,
all these guys played. Yes, they made it professional. They made their money, no doubt at the time. But I saw it more as they were playing for the love of the sport, the passion of the sport, the sweater that they wore, they represented.
Yeah.
Right? How often do you see now athletes spending an entire career with one team?
Hardly ever.
Ever.
5 years.
Right?
Max.
Yeah. So
maybe Sidney Crosby?
Yeah, he's an anomaly. But it's I look back then, like growing up, and we may be going in a circle here. I may not be getting to your question here, but what I got out of sport was, again, I enjoyed pushing myself beyond my physical limits. There was some euphoria doing that, right? That thinking, okay, last practice, we would do a lot of long distance running, wind sprints, and all this stuff during training, and it'd always be timed. Right, so we'd run 8 kilometers with the Ontario program, the Canadian national team, and they time us all the time, and it'd be like, all right, I got this time, I got to beat it next time.
Sure.
I got to beat it. That I still feel a burning of my lungs when you're pushing yourself beyond your limits.
Do you train today? Like you train now?
I just got back into training, so I'm training with a personal trainer. After my career, after my scholarship, my thing for soccer went away. I didn't want to see soccer. I didn't want to see a soccer ball. Didn't want to be involved in the sport.
That usually happens.
And again, you work your ass to get there. My fault too. My parents wasn't familiar with the scholarship process, how to choose a school or questions to ask and this and that. I essentially chose a school that had the best recruiting party at.
I find that a young athlete, if he can get past that age of 16, 17, 18, no matter what he's experienced, at that point, the decision is his to stay. And then things change. But you got that small opening between 18 to 20 where, a lot of younger guys who get picked up at 15, 16 years old have got 2 or 3 years on you, and they're already either playing semi-pro or pro. So when you go through those little hassles within yourself or whatever is getting in the way, it delays. But then you get the people who are late bloomers, and they end up doing a lot better than most other people. But so you started training again, and you take the same principles that you learned from you work hard. You were training hard.
You work hard. It was just always about pushing it and going beyond your limits. Like it's weird. I don't know how to explain it. Like when I ran and trained, even outside of practice, I would always go running. Always go, get the soccer ball. I'd go to the soccer field close to my house. I grew up in Scarborough, and I just shoot the ball. Free kicks, penalty kicks, and just one corner. I remember in Scarborough, we lived in front of a plaza. So the front of our house faced the back of a plaza, and they had trees in front. and they were perfectly spaced, big enough as a soccer net. And I remember one time after a game or whatever, when I was small, I played crap. My dad put the ball on the boulevard of the grass. Then there was the street, and then the plaza with the trees. He goes, I want you to hit that tree, like hitting the post and making go in the net. I want you to hit that tree 10 times, otherwise don't come into the house.
Wow. He was hardcore.
Yeah. So funny enough, like whatever. Then after that, it just became part of my routine. I'd put the ball there, tree in, like just automatic. But how I trained, even after my scholarship, I still wanted to work out. I still wanted to feel fit because it was just a part of you. And during my career, after my career, I would always talk to myself to push myself. As I was running, I would always recall talking to myself like as if something bad was going to happen to me if I didn't reach the finish line in a certain time.
I see.
Or I would repeat things to myself to get myself angry. You just internalize, and this is all internal.
Of course. You're
telling yourself you're a loser, you can't make it, you're not going to make it, you're no good, this and that. I would just repeat myself to push myself more.
It's almost like self-sabotage in a way.
Oh, I'm a wreck. I was a wreck. I don't know how, whatever I achieved in the sport, I don't know how I did it with that self-talk.
Wow.
But it was just that anger that drove me. It fueled me. It got my adrenaline running, saying, oh yeah, I'll prove you wrong.
Okay.
It's like I was going to prove myself wrong or my inner voice wrong. All right. And that was the persona I developed. Funny enough, I discovered this when I went to Landmark Forum. It's basically a personal development program.
I've heard of Landmark.
Yeah. And that was my thing. I'll prove you wrong. So it's like I fed off people telling me I couldn't do something. Really? You're telling me I can't do it? Who are you to tell me I can't? Okay, don't worry.
I love that.
I'll prove you wrong.
You sound like Michael Jordan, man. I love that.
Don't worry about it.
Listen, I know those are some of them might be your internal demons, but at the end of the day, you've heard the expression where, hard times create hard men, and hard men create good times, and good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. Yeah. So it's a pattern. You're the one that's going to create, hopefully, the good times because you're a hard person. It's a bit of a gift, but then again, it's also, an obstacle that gets in the way of your personality as to how you see things. But you know what? You're mature now. You're an older person. You've got kids. Sometimes you might want to relive those experiences through your children, but you're going to catch yourself. You can play a game with yourself. If relating to business, you worked as a home building inspector in the
public sector, so with municipalities and stuff like that.
Did that attitude get in the way?
No, not really. I actually fell into it. I went into inspections working for the government because I knew I wanted to do that after I came back from my scholarship. I enrolled in George Brown for architectural technology. And I knew from the second year that that's what I wanted to do. And I guess it was part of my upbringing: get a good job, get a good safe job, pay the bills.
Sure.
How the routine goes.
Of course.
But I always thought, okay, I'm going to get this job. And then every firefighter, policeman, or every other building inspector out there, you always got something else going on the side.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
But just to backtrack a bit, you said something that really caught me. I did have an opportunity to go to Italy when I was young. I think it was 14 or 15, and I turned it down.
You turned it down?
I turned it down. So our president at the time with Centro Scuola, Alberto Di Giovanni, had contacts with Italy, with the athletic part of the government. CONI Canada was called, or CONI. And it was Parma that we were affiliated with. And I was supposed to go there for a 3-month tournament. And again, it's not to say that, I was such a great player. I am getting to a point here. So that opportunity came at 14 or 15. And it was like a deer in the headlights when it happened.
Wow.
I didn't know what to do.
You're kidding.
And I froze. I thought about it. I don't know what it was, and I turned it down.
What did your dad say about it?
Funny enough, so the president of the club freaked out. He freaked out. He was basically, oh, my dad, you're his dad. You forced him to go, this, that, the other. And surprisingly, my dad said, listen, it's his choice. So what was it? Was it a regret? Like, people say, well, do you regret that? And I'm like, I don't know if you want to look at it as a regret, because fast forward, when I got my scholarship, we were there for August in preseason. We did the season, did the schooling. At Christmas, I didn't go back. I made the decision not to go back. So I was there for a semester. And during that time, I unleashed everything. All the experiences that I didn't have as a normal teenager, that my friends had during high school and this and that, I made up for all those years in like 6 months.
Wow.
My mind went crazy. I was on my own. I was 18. I turned 19 in the States. And I did everything that I wasn't able to do. I partied, experienced other things.
Yeah, for sure.
Played soccer. And I had to make the decision, okay, are you going to go back, yes or no? And I didn't go back. For the simple fact that if I went back, I think I'd still be in university because I wouldn't be able to graduate. Wow. Today, because my mind wasn't there. And looking back to the time when I let that opportunity go to go to Italy, and perhaps would I have made it? I don't know. And again, through the personal development journey that I'm still going through, but then I realized, I'm like, could you imagine at 14, 15, leaving home, going to Italy? Let's say I would have made it. I said, was I the type of person, and this is just me now thinking back, reflecting, would I have been the type of person to handle that success? Judging from what I did in the States, I don't think I would have been. I don't think I would have been. I wasn't mentally prepared. I wasn't mentally mature enough to handle. I would have been a disaster. I would have been one of those athletes that you would have seen in the tabloids week after week, partying, alcohol, drugs, girls, who knows?
Really?
Judging from what I did in the States, yeah, definitely. So things happen for a reason. I think everything happens for a reason. There is a purpose behind everything. Opportunities come, opportunities go. But reflecting back, knowing what I know now, that's the one question I asked myself. Were you the type of person that would have succeeded in that environment? Or would have been able to handle yourself in that environment? And honestly, I've looked myself in the mirror long and hard many times, and I told myself, no, there's no way you would have been able to handle that.
So that's pretty cool. You know, you felt that you weren't mature enough.
Later on in life.
Today, do you regret that decision?
No.
My cousin had the same opportunity in soccer. If I had to do things over again and that came about for one of my kids, I say, go for it. What do you got to lose? There's nothing to lose.
And again, it also came, I feel it stems from the inexperience from my parents' side. I'm not blaming them. It's just these opportunities came along, and it's something brand new that you have no clue how this works, right? As I grew up, again, opportunities came easier in Canada for soccer, and you hear of parents, you know what, my son's got this opportunity, or my daughter, whatever it may be, and one of the parents always goes with the kid.
Yes.
They're like, we're going to make this happen.
Yes.
Or we're going to see what this is all about. My parents weren't in a position to do that.
Yes.
They both had to work.
Yes.
Right? At the time. And I get that. Would it have been different if someone was there with me, where they say, you know what, we'll go together.
Yeah.
This, that, the other? Maybe. But then again, reflecting, it's like, okay, it was more of, shit, I got this opportunity. I'm going to go. What happens if I don't succeed? What?
Okay.
And again, this is just from past, because this is all past experience, past baggage. What's your dad going to do if you don't make it?
So your dad had a big impact on your...
It was. And again, I discovered this later on when I went to Landmark. It's like, oh my God, man, I got a lot of daddy issues here. But
who doesn't?
Yeah. But playing sports, just developing that mindset, developing that drive, that discipline, that structure, that drive to always accomplish something, go beyond what you think you're capable of. It sticks with you, and you bring those habits, that mindset in life, right? You want to talk about business, you bring it to your business life,
your relationships,
you want to make things work, you want to make it happen, but you have like a sixth sense, right? And so I did bring that to my work ethic when I started working, because I did love what I did, what I did as a building inspector. I loved my job. I loved working in that type of environment where you feel you are doing something of service, where you're giving back, and you're doing good. But again, I fast forward 19, 18 years, I started hating my career, resenting it. It wasn't fulfilling anymore. And just before COVID, 2020, resigned from my position. And perhaps if, like you said, was it bad timing? I don't know. Maybe it was the right timing.
It was the right timing, sure.
It was the right timing, because I was a point in my life, and this happened multiple times, where you weren't satisfied, you weren't happy, you'd get up in the morning, you're not motivated, you're angry, and you just didn't want to do anything.
Yeah.
Right? And I developed that, like, there was always something more. There has to be more. There has to be more. And I developed that very early on, that type of mindset, saying that there has to be a better way. There has to be more. And that stemmed from just watching my parents work their ass off, and just what seemed like to me, how I interpreted it, they weren't moving ahead. It was just, running on a treadmill. And I said to myself, I don't want to experience that. I don't want to experience life that way. I want to do something, progress. If you're not progressing, for me, you're failing.
I have two questions for you.
Sure.
What's your relationship like with your dad right now?
We're okay. We're good. We're not like lovey-dovey, huggy.
But you respect.
But again, and this came me evolving as a person and developing through my self-discovery, appreciating where they came from, appreciating what they did with the circumstances that they had to grow up in or face in life. Do I agree with it till today? I don't know, but it kind of molded me to who I am today.
Okay.
You come against adversity and hard times now, and it's happened to me where I've hit rock bottom many times in my life. But it's because of those experiences growing up the way I grew up. It's like you bounce back quickly.
Sure.
And yeah, I definitely appreciate that.
But you do whatever it takes.
You do whatever it takes, man. Do whatever it takes attitude. I always say, when I left the public sector, when I left my job, people are like, oh my God, you're crazy. You had a pension, benefits, this and that. And I'm like, who cares?
This is why you're on the Comeback Kid show.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about. The other question is this. You have a relationship with God?
That's a really loaded question.
I had to ask that one.
I was always very curious. I questioned a lot. Once I got into high school, it was funny how once I hit high school, I started questioning a lot of things in life.
Good.
Just being an observer and questioning, why does it have to be this way? Mm-hmm. Why does it have to be that way? Same with religion.
Well, that's a different topic. I'm talking about God himself.
God himself. Do I believe there's a God, there's a higher power? Yes. Yeah, I do. I do. From a religion perspective, again, we grew up Roman Catholic. I don't practice that anymore.
I think you can say this, that, and I can relate to that too, of course, because my background is also Roman Catholic. But I think what we can also say is that we've been preconditioned. We grew up and got an education in anxiety. Okay, in some case, in anxiety and worry. We were taught how to worry, how to fear. And you know what? Where does that come from? That comes from, number one, maybe a lack of knowing, ignorance, whatever you want to call it. But it's not fair to say, well, today you've got information everywhere. Ignorance is a choice. It's a choice because there's so much available to you till you can evolve. Our parents didn't have those luxuries. They had to go with what they were taught. They were taught from other people and passed on from generation, no different than us, no different than you. So in that sense, if we can pull back and say, let's we can take a better look at this in a much more clear, with a different lens, it makes a lot of it makes more sense. The same way you started questioning. Questioning is the number one rule to find out, what is this all about? Yeah. When you don't question and you're just a sheep and you just follow, you're asking for destruction. Yeah. In my opinion, you're asking for destruction.
And that's where I got into some of the darker times in my life where, again, we're working in the industry that I was working in. I always had something else going on the side. I was designing homes, additions, renovations, so pumping out drawings for people. Then I got into project managing and quoting them for people. And just, again, because I love creating. I love hearing what people wanted, designing it, and bringing it to fruition.
That's beautiful.
So that was something that I really enjoyed. And but then even then, that love gone away. I worked myself so hard. I didn't even know why I was working. Maybe it was for the wrong reasons or whatever. You get burnt out. I burned myself out. I got to a point in my life where I was doing what I was doing because of that story in my head. I didn't want to experience life like my parents did.
Right.
I didn't want to stay in one place. I wanted progression. And then I was in a space of, material possessions define success, we'll say. Yeah. And it's a dangerous road.
It is a
dangerous road. I worked myself so hard that I worked myself into a nervous breakdown.
Really?
I literally broke down. It was, I think around 2010 or 2009, where I was done. I got the swine flu. Okay, my two girls were young at the time. Who I was as a person, I was a disaster.
Wow.
I was a negligent husband, dad. I was just angry all the time. I blocked everyone out because I had this goal that I wanted to succeed.
At all costs.
At all costs for, in a monetary sense. Because I wanted these goals. I wanted these things. And I worked myself into a nervous breakdown.
There's something else.
I just lost it. So my kids had a quarantine from me. It was me and my wife home because of the swine flu. I was incubated in my room and on these heavy meds. And it felt like an eternity. But during that time, I don't share this story with a lot of people, but it was during that time where, whether you have an awakening or an epiphany, I don't know. I don't know what happened to me during that time, but I do remember, even my wife remembers, I'd sleep all day. I was up at night.
Wow.
Fevers, hallucinations. I'd be walking around the house, just talking. And I freaked out my wife for a few nights. I would go in and out of showers throughout the entire night because I would burn up.
Wow.
And
you had like this internal fire going on inside your mind.
I was just like, I don't know if it was fever or what it was, but
well, I would think that was just developing because of what was going on an emotional level.
Yeah, what was going on externally with my side business, dealing with clients, constantly fighting to get paid. Again, you have experience in the construction industry, so you know what I'm talking about. Dealing with clients, and then it starts off great. Then as you progress, and they have to start dishing out the money to progress, the relationship. I don't know why it was the relationship always went askew towards the end, but nonetheless, I come to this point in my life where I'm low. I'm like, I've leveraged myself to the tits. I was doing flips at the time. I have 2 young kids. Wife, I wasn't where I wanted to be, and what I was resisting, that life that I was resisting that my parents had, it's like I was living it.
Isn't that funny?
It's just crazy. So during this time of when I was sick and hallucinating, this one night will always forever be tattooed in my head. And again, it's not a story that a lot of people know. I don't share this with a lot of people. Very few people know this, and it's because we've connected at a different level. And there was one evening where I was up, I remember being angry and feverish, like I was going bonkers. And it was like, I'd be asking myself, how did I get here? How do I get out? I did this, and I'm still find myself where I don't want to be. Right? Whether I was praying or asking for help or whatever, God's honest truth. And it was like a flash. It just happened as a flash. Although it seemed like it was longer than that, like maybe minutes or hours. I was in my room, and in the doorway of my room, I just saw this figure that resembled Jesus Christ. And he said, everything's going to be okay.
Get out. And
then like this, it was gone.
Isn't that something?
Next morning, Coach, I kid you not, next morning I woke up as if I was never sick.
And you're not even a believer.
At the time, no. No, I wasn't. I was just an angry,
young man,
self-centered individual.
Isn't that something? That's a great story, man. I love this.
Yeah.
And you see
everything's going to be okay. I like closing my eyes now, I can still see myself looking in the doorway of my bedroom, and that vision is there.
Did you hear it, or did it just...
No. I saw it. I heard it. I saw it. I heard it. Everything's going to be okay.
Wow.
Don't worry about it. And gone.
Did you tell your wife about this?
I told her about it months later, because we weren't in the greatest place either. I don't blame her. Again, it's just because of who I was, right? There was all the pressures of home were on her, taking care of the kids and all that stuff. I was out doing my thing, and our relationship wasn't the greatest, just because of who I was, and I was never home. I was just working because I had this demented view of what success was. But the next morning I woke up, and it was like everything was gone.
What a miracle.
The fevers, the hallucinations, the stress, everything. Everything was so clear. It was like, okay, from this point forward, I need help. I got to get out of where I'm getting out of. I can't do this alone. So I gave up doing what I was doing on the side, right? Because I'm like, I can't go down this road anymore. It's not serving me.
So all he said to you was, everything's going to be okay.
Everything's going to be okay. Don't worry.
What did he look like?
Like Jesus.
Really? You saw him clearly, or just?
It was clear. It was clear.
And you weren't even a person of prayer.
Back then, no.
That's amazing. That's pretty authentic, man.
It was. Listen, I get
goosebumps.
Yeah, you do get goosebumps, and again, this feeling inside, right now. It's like you want to, honestly, I feel like crying, but it was a freaky moment.
It's a real moment, man. That's a real moment.
It was a freaky moment.
Because look, you see, they talk about God being personal. There it is. Yeah. Personal.
And from then on, from that point moving forward, it's like just things were getting put in my life that were like, it was just like God was telling me, okay, go through this door, go through this door, go through this door, go through this door. Just one after another, one after another, one after another. It was, I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah, for sure. And it all felt comfortable.
It just felt right. It felt right. And the right people started coming into my life, who, kicked my ass in a good way. Courses came into my life, books came into my life.
Beautiful.
All this stuff. And it just, I just did a 180. From that moment forward is a 180.
Wow, I love that.
And I'll never forget going to the basement and clearing everything out. All my old drawings, project files, my AutoCAD program. I deleted it off my computer, and it was like a cleansing. I said, I don't want anything that reminds me of what it was.
Beautiful. That's amazing.
Yeah. So it was pretty great. And that's when I came across, again, certain books, certain people and mentors came into my life. Those hard conversations had to happen. I call them wake-up calls. They had to happen.
Yeah.
I turned my... it was funny at that time too. We eventually ended up selling that house because I wanted nothing to do with that house anymore. It was just pure cleanse. I need new. I need fresh. That's when I came across through a friend who became a mentor in my life, and I thank him every day for the lessons and the impact he had in my life. That's when Landmark came into my life. The Landmark Forum, and that was a rude awakening.
I think
that was a slap in the face.
Well, what that does, it gives you an internal view of how you see the world, right? And the way you see the world is where the world sees you, and so it gives you a mirror to yourself. Yeah. It's got. I was against Landmark years ago. I did the first one, but you know what? There's some benefits to that. There's a lot of benefits to that.
I honestly, and again, everyone's experience is different. Okay, everyone's life journey is different. Everyone's just different, right? Although we are, well, I don't even want to say this. Everyone is different. Every human is different.
Yes.
I don't know what I was in search for, but I know it wasn't where I was. I wanted more. I wanted to get back to the person that accomplished things, pushed themselves beyond. And again, that's when I started to question more. There has to be more to life. Mm-hmm. This can't be success, right? It can't be success. And so Landmark came along, and that was a crazy wake-up call of a weekend for me. Mm-hmm. To have the forum leader really strip you down. Like during that weekend, I really felt like I was in front of however many people were in that room, 120 or whatever it was, maybe 80 to 120. And I felt like I was in front of that room naked.
Oh, Jesus.
And I remember the forum leader, the person who led the course in front of everyone. And I was telling him a story, I was sharing a story, hoping for a breakthrough. And this is trying to justify myself, I guess. Mm-hmm. And he's like, he goes, you know what? He goes, listen, you are who you are. There's no wrong, there's no right to it. Right? But he goes, I can tell you one thing, you're very arrogant.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Where'd that personality come from?
Now, let me tell you.
Somebody else?
Old Mass wanted, I envision myself lunging at this guy and just pummeling him. As if he were on a soccer field. I'd just eat him alive.
This is after your Jesus moment, right?
This was after that experience.
I hate to use that term. I'm sorry.
Yeah, after that experience.
My apologies. That's right.
Yeah, because that's when all these other doors started presenting themselves.
I take that back.
No. Hey, no problem.
I don't like that either. I don't like that either. I take that back.
And I know it sounds so loopy, but with people, even with some of the people that I shared this with, they're like, get out of here. They appreciate it. I shared it with one person who, I guess we weren't on the same level or conscious level, and they're like, they looked at you weird. But after the forum, as soon as I heard that line, it's because you're arrogant, it was like I was observing myself outside of myself. And the look on my face was just shock and disgust.
Did it change you?
It took a while. Listen, when someone calls you arrogant in front of that many people, it's you would hope it changes you. Yeah, did it change me? That, of course, did change me. I took a new outlook on life, on myself. Mm-hmm. And things started to change for the better. Again, started reading books. Some of the books that really woke me up, or through self-discovery, or made me realize things about myself that I still put in practice. Conversations with God is a great book. I don't know if you've ever come across that.
I've heard that one. No, I've heard it. I've never read
Conversations with God is a great series.
That's Walsh?
Yeah.
Walsh, yeah. Neil Walsh.
Neil Walsh.
Yes, I've heard it on audio. Yes, I have.
Yeah, that was a crazy book, and again, this was all because of someone who came into my life and started showing me a different way. Right, whether or not I wanted to go down that path, it was my choice, but I decided because I wanted different. I was in search of something different, and that book was a big eye opener. That's when I started to question the Catholic faith even more. But
that's okay. Hey, listen.
But I did believe like that book was, and if anyone watching hasn't read it, I recommend reading that book. Then I read books earlier in my life. The one that really started questioning me, which is the book I read before high school, was Think and Grow Rich, not Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yes.
Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
So that really made me start questioning a lot.
Those actually, Think and Grow Rich and Robert Kiyosaki's Conspiracy of the Rich are two fundamental books that changed me. Both of those. Yeah. Because I didn't understand the world from that perspective. And I remember I read, I bought Think and Grow Rich. The first one I got was was Kiyosaki's Conspiracy of the Rich. We were in a hockey tournament in Florida last year that I coached. I read through it the whole time I was down there.
Yeah.
While we're coaching and playing, tournaments and whatnot. And then the other one, Napoleon Hill, with Think and Grow Rich.
That was Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
Napoleon Hill.
That one there, I read it. We went to Europe and I read it halfway in the flight there and half it on the beach somewhere. Yeah. So they change. They do change you.
They mess with you. I don't know if I can swear or not because it's the perfect phrase, but it's really a mind fuck.
Yeah.
And that just started to happen after that experience. Like things just started. I started to realize more, become present to more, become aware of more who I was, and just how I observed the world. After the landmark course, it was a very awkward conversation I had with my wife.
Who did you make the phone call to apologize?
No phone call for my wife. This is something I had to do in person. And what was the question that I asked? And her reaction was priceless. So I basically, and I can't remember the exact wording. So she knew I was going to this course. I came home. It was during the weekend. I said, listen, we got to talk. Right? She's like, okay, well, I said, listen, I have some homework to do. We got to talk. So I said, what is it about me or our marriage that doesn't make you happy and you would change? Along those lines.
Nice.
And right away, nothing. Everything's good.
When they say there's nothing wrong, there's always something
Right?
wrong.
I'm like, no. I said, things aren't right. Things are not. So she looked at me. She knew I was serious. Because I knew things weren't the greatest. They weren't the greatest. She's like, okay, let me think about it. So it was 2 days later where she came back with
a list.
A whole list
a
of
litany of things. Should have never asked her the question.
No, but you know what? It's a conversation that had to happen. That I feel that conversation saved us.
Wow, that's sure. For sure.
That conversation saved us. I learned a lot. I was like, holy shit, did I really come across like this?
This is where your arrogance now started to disappear.
Yeah, like the things she was saying, I was like, oish.
Yeah.
And again, I share this with you because we've known each other. We'd have some pretty in-depth conversations, but during that conversation, I learned that she thought, although I was out working on sites, on different project to project, mm-hmm. She honestly thought I was having an affair.
You're kidding.
Just because of, that's who I was, like, that's how...
you were being perceived.
I was being perceived. I guess that's what it was I was giving off.
Jesus.
Ignoring her, ignoring the kids, being short with everyone. Right? So I'm like, holy crows, man. Did I like, and to hear the doubt, the pain that you cause someone.
Yeah. Especially
someone that you've known all your life, that stuck by you through thick and thin.
Yeah.
Supported you. Again, me and my wife have known each other since high school. We started dating at the end of grade 9. And so we've known each other now, 28 years we've been together?
That's amazing. That's good. You know,
18 years married.
The fact that you asked that question, that tells you how much you've evolved. You know, somebody put the right seeds in your head to say, you know, this is not all your fault. You've been coached in the wrong manner. You're carrying a lot of baggage internally, which is really unnecessary. And that moment you had, you know, that encounter with Jesus, man. That's a real moment. I can see it inside you. You know, this has become personal, and it's not that you're a religious type of guy, because you just weren't. Yeah. You were just full of rage.
Yeah, full of rage, and I don't know what it was. Like, again, you work hard because you want to do the best for your family, but then at the same time, who I was being and the vision I had, or how I perceived things,
false expectations.
Yeah, was hurting everybody.
Yeah,
everyone I was doing it for, I was hurting.
Yeah.
And listen, I feel life can't always be everything's great.
No.
There's got to be dips, there's got to be valleys, and I feel it's the valleys where you really learn lessons, and that's where you break through.
What can you expect once you've climbed the mountain? What's on the other side of the mountain?
I'll let you know when I get there.
Well, a valley. It's automatic. It's just a valley, yeah. And then it comes up. That's just the way it is. And
again, you learn that, but you're never taught that.
No,
you're never taught that.
No,
you're taught, failure is bad. Never make mistakes. This, that, the other, and now I don't want my kids to experience that. And it's not to say the way I grew up was right or wrong. It's just because of what I've learned, discovered, experienced. It's like I tell my kids now, never be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
It's okay to make mistakes.
That's right.
There was one show growing up with my kids that, and even me, it was on when I was a kid, that I absolutely loved. And there was one line that it was a cartoon, The Magic School Bus.
The Magic School Bus. I kind of don't remember that.
Okay. The teacher's character was named Miss Frizzle.
Miss Frizzle.
And her line was, she says something along the lines of, don't be afraid to get messy and make mistakes.
That's great advice.
Cartoon.
A cartoon. That's great advice. What do they tell kids today? I don't even want to go there.
Yeah, let's not go there.
You know, because it's you wonder where this is all going to end up, and it's unfortunate because you can see the people, young kids today, how they're so impressionable.
No, they're very vulnerable, and they don't know how to handle it, again, because they weren't. Is it our fault that we try and coddle them too much and protect them Because again, like you said, we grew up harder. And I can only imagine your generation too, right?
Worse than yours.
Yeah. And again, as I always promised myself, I'd never be the type of parent my parents were. I don't want to raise my kids the way my parents raised me, right? I want to be more of a, like more, and again, it's not to say that's right or wrong. It's just guide them more from what I've learned, what I know. Whether or not it's selfish or conceited, I don't know. But teaching them, you're going to fail. You're going to have downs. You're going to have ups. Right? But it's how you respond to it. It's going to happen. It's part of life.
That's right.
But embrace it, learn from it. That's where you go to the next level. Don't be scared of failing. It's the last thing I want for my kids.
Every time you fail, you're getting stronger. You're just going further up. That's how everything you look at life, from a child walking to sports, evolution, school, climbing a hill, climbing a mountain. No matter, an airplane needs a fight through the through the strain of the wind coming at it with its it's in order to rise. It's just the way the universe is built. God built it that way.
And that's where, again, I sometimes get frustrated and I catch myself. The good thing is I catch myself because then I think about, you're turning into your dad. But you see the potential in your kids. Every parent does.
Yes.
You see the potential, and it frustrates me when they struggle with that. But at the same time, I got to remind myself, hey, listen, it's their journey.
That's right.
You can only give them this much. Whether or not they want to go down that road, take that. They're their own spirits, their own human beings. They're going to make the choices they want to make.
Yeah.
But the only thing I can hope for as a parent is that you do rub off. You do. They do get something from me to say, hey, I did my part. Mm-hmm. I can't run there. I can't make their decisions.
I want to wrap this up, and I want to ask you a few questions. Okay, this has been a great conversation. Actually, it's gone into a different direction.
We'll do a part two.
We'll do a part two, 100%. What advice do you have for young kids today? When I say young kids, I'm talking about 20, 25, 30 years old. Today, what advice do you have?
In what context?
I don't know. I mean, they're all looking to be ambitious. Some of them don't care. Some of them are, I call them the, they used to call us the Pepsi generation at one point. But that was, because we still like drinking pop. But these guys today are all tech savvy. Everything's at their fingertips. They don't like pain. Tolerance levels are low. What do you say to a young guy, young girl, just coming out of university, college, and looking to, what do you say to them?
Am I qualified to say?
Well, just from your own life, what can they expect?
It's not easy. Life isn't easy. Life isn't meant to be easy.
Would you tell them to be afraid?
Hold on. Let me rephrase that. Whenever you decide to pursue something that you want to achieve, you are going to have to work for it. Mm-hmm. I understand we live in a society of instantaneous results, gratification. Listen, the worst thing that can happen to society is social media, my opinion. Okay? I think it got turned into something that it shouldn't have been.
It's like a double-edged sword. It's a blessing, and then again, it's a curse.
Yeah. Realistic expectations, you are going to have to work for what you want. It is going to take sacrifice. It is going to take time. It's a journey. And again, you're not going to do this alone. You can't succeed alone. And I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
You're always going to have to ask for help. You are going to fail. So expect it. You are going to have to ask for help.
If you had to do it all over again in 60 seconds or less, what would you change?
In my life?
Yeah.
In 60 seconds or less, what would I change? Oh my. Having the knowledge and experience I have now when I was younger.
Okay. Would you have been so hard on yourself as you were before?
That's a good question. I think because I was hard on myself, no, I would have still been hard on myself.
You wouldn't change that?
No, I wouldn't, because I don't think I would have achieved what I've achieved if I wasn't.
Okay. That's fair enough. That's good. That's good. You're being truthful about that. And obviously, there's something to be said about that kind of an experience. And
would I have tweaked it? Yes.
well, sure.
But I don't think I would have changed being hard on myself. It's
like David Goggins. You know David Goggins?
I haven't heard of him.
David Goggins. He's a hell of a trooper, man. You got to search him out on social media. Goggins is as tough as nails. He's got a hell of a story. Our stories are nothing in comparison to what he's gone through, and he's just hardcore. He's a hardcore guy. He'll get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, go train. He'll get up in the morning. He was part of the Navy SEALs. He would go in the water. He'll tell you the whole story.
Yeah.
But he also talks about today's generation. And there's a lot to be learned from a person like that for today's generation, because it's the complete opposite of what they're doing today. Most of them, anyway.
Yeah. No, but being hard on myself, no, I would have never changed that. Although it was demented, how I motivated myself, putting myself down.
It worked for you. It worked for you
to a certain extent.
I get it.
Right? Was it healthy? I don't know, but I think a lot of what's going on today is a lot of people, a lot of kids, 20s, 30s, even the 40s and beyond, they really don't know what they want in life. There's no purpose.
There's no purpose. There's that big word again.
There's no purpose to what they're doing. And that's where I see you have the book here, Outwitting the Devil, which is a great book by Napoleon Hill. And they talk about the hypnotic state.
The rhythm,
right? Of just
the rhythm,
malaise and sleepwalking through life with no purpose.
And what did Napoleon Hill say in Think and Grow Rich? The definiteness of purpose.
Yeah.
And the word purpose, that was the first time I really got introduced to it as to what was it all about. The whole book is about having a purpose.
Yeah.
You know,
and I listen, my big wish, not wish, if there's something that I could do, whether or not I'm really engaged to do it, is to really turn around the educational system and put these books in the curriculum, put personal development and self-discovery into the curriculum.
Maybe you should run for school board trustee.
I would strip down the entire system.
And I'm gonna end this here, because that's a whole different topic, but now we know where you're gonna go with this. Listen, we went way over, but I'm okay. This is a great conversation.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, Massimo, I want to thank you for showing up. I want to thank you for being so open about your experience. I want to thank you for sharing your childhood and into today, because there's a lot of people out there that are going to connect with the story. At the same time, you brought a lot of value to this whole program, and I'm grateful to you. I'm really, really grateful.
Appreciate it.
I'm glad that you did this. We didn't even get the chance to talk about your real estate career and whatnot, but
that's okay, man.
That
bigger
can
things
wait.
Beyond that.
Of course. Yeah. But anyway, that's the end of our show. Don't forget to support our sponsors at moneymagnet.com. We provide inspirational apparel for the positive reasons. We want to make the world a better place. Negativity is too prevalent everywhere today. So we want life to be good. So support our sponsors. And till our next show, thank you and God bless.
All right. Thanks, Coach.